we don't see Coach Ty Lue show much frustrations, especially in post-game interviews. But I can definitely see the reason why he showed some frustration in this one after the loss to the Spurs. Let's talk about it. You know, what Ty Lue saw against the Spurs was utter embarrassment. You know, I've said that this team can definitely do a lot of good things. I've said this team could do a lot of great things in the postseason. I said this team could be very resilient, and I've given this team a lot of credit. I've given the Clippers a lot of credit. I really have. Just as a team overall, the talent they have, the bench they have, the players they have, and how they gel and, you know, how they play as a unit when they're all together, when their backs are against the wall. And I've even said in my previous video, there's no need to throw dirt on them as of yet. But when you look at losses like against the San Antonio Spurs, this team basically had a layup line drill going on. They were getting to the basket when they wanted to, getting any shot they wanted to, and they were getting all the offensive rebounds, seemed like, and they got all the offensive rebounds that really counted in the game, which resulted in them winning the game 116-92. Now, in this game, Paul George returned this game. He returned, he came back, he, scored 25 plus points, and that still wasn't good enough. And you would think it would be good enough against a team like the Spurs. Now, Ty Lue definitely showed frustration, definitely destroyed his team in regards to speaking about how they played as a unit overall and how it was just basically piss poor basketball. And, on the flip side of that, I see a lot of good with the Clippers. I've seen a lot of good with them. I see it now, even when they play at times. But I also have mentioned in my other videos as well, just as much as I give them credit, that's the same amount I give them criticism, because there's enough for both to go around in every situation on every team. This team specifically is very confusing, and I have said that on multiple occasions, multiple videos, and I know you guys heard me say it before. This is probably the most confusing team I've seen in my life. They have all the talent and they show all the resiliency to be the team that you want them to be, but they have lapses that are unreal. You can't lose to a Spurs team who their only player that they can call a star player is DeJounte Murray. That's the only player that they have that they can really actually call a star player. And he's not even a star player. He looks like he can become one. He has talent enough to be a star player in the NBA. He definitely has talent enough to do it, because a lot of people thought he would be a good replacement for Kawhi Leonard in Spurs land out there. And we all see how that went. Didn't happen. But at the same time, he definitely has a lot of talent, and he definitely, can do a lot of good things if he stays healthy and shows more promise and stay under that system with Greg Popovich. If Greg Popovich really wants to put him under his wing and allow him to flourish. Seems like to me, Greg Popovich really doesn't care what goes on with the Spurs now, because he can't make DeJounte Murray a winning type player. He can't turn him into a Kawhi Leonard. He's just not that, what I'm saying? He'll never be that, I don't believe. Anyway, but when you look at this loss against the Spurs, Ty Lue showed nothing but frustration, and I know it may have sounded like he threw the Clippers under the bus in regards to, basically speaking out about his players, almost like he's pointing fingers, but he had every right to. This team lost to a team in the Spurs that doesn't have a superstar, who doesn't have a second superstar, a team that is definitely probably the worst or one of the worst teams in the West. They have won some games, not going to say they haven't, but I mean, honestly, they're just not a contender. They're just not a playoff caliber type team. If they do make the playoffs, they're definitely going out in the first round. And, it's just one of those losses, once again, that you shake your head at, because I said earlier in the season, the Clippers lost a game like this against Cleveland. What was it? Cleveland goes into LA and beat the Clippers with Paul George, and Colin Sexton was the leading scorer in the game, I believe. There's no way Colin Sexton should have been the best player on the floor against a Clippers team that has Paul George. It's just no way. You cannot allow things like that to happen on your watch. And if you're going to be a championship team, you've got to be better. I sit up here a lot of times and I stick up for this team. I see a lot of good in them. I try to see the positivity in them. in what they're doing, but they got to be better. They've got to be much better. You cannot lose to a team by 24 points with DeJounte Murray as their number one guy, and you got Paul George on the floor, and you got Reggie Jackson, you got Terrence Mann, you got Kennard, you got Marcus Morris, you got talent. You got way more talent than what that team has. But it goes to what I always say about the Clippers, which makes me shake my head about them and which makes it seem like it's a wishy-washy feeling with the Clippers, because there's times where I feel like I give them so much credit and how good they're doing. I tend to forget sometimes the flaws that they have that make them lose games like this one. You cannot lose to a Spurs team who doesn't have a superstar in there. A Greg Popovich who looks like he doesn't even want to be there anymore, who looks like he's just living out his contract until it's over or whenever it's over and just going to retire. I mean, that's really what the Spurs look like. They look like a tired, dragged out team who has been through everything, seen all the highs. Now they're going through the lows. And it's just, Greg Popovich biding his time to really, walk away from the organization, I believe. And they go in there and beat a Clippers team who definitely needs a win, who definitely, needs all the wins they can get, because they're trying to build as much as they can and stay afloat as much as they can, because even though they're in the 6th seed, it's like 2 or 3 games different from the 6th seed all the way to the 8th seed. And this is what I'm trying to say. Ty Lue definitely had a right to be upset about what he saw, because what he saw was utterly trash. I mean, it just looked like the Clippers played no defense at all. And really, they didn't. This team got all the layups they wanted, backing down in the paint, two drop step, hook shot in the paint, or, easy pass to the bucket. I mean, it just looked like the Clippers were really dazed and confused. It really looked like the Spurs were actually, honestly, the better team overall. Like they actually have a better team and a better record than the Clippers have. They really look like they're a better team. I mean, just overall in every facet. And they don't even have Kawhi Leonard. I mean, honestly, if you look at the score, 116-92, you thought Kawhi Leonard played last night with a Spurs jersey on, or played against this team with a Spurs jersey on. It's just really no excuse for it. And these are the type of things that I say that can come back to haunt the Clippers. You play down to your competition. You shoot too many threes, a lot of isolation basketball, not enough ball movement. You're going to get beat. You're not going to win a championship. You're going to get beat in the first round. Do you realize that you almost got beat in the first round last year? Do you realize that if it wasn't for Kawhi Leonard pulling out a Herculean effort, and you almost lost in the first round against the Dallas Mavericks, and you almost lost with him playing at one of the highest levels I've ever seen a player play. I've never seen a player average 33 points a game, shooting 65% from the field, 45+% from 3, and his team is down 3-2 in a series against the Dallas Mavericks team with a young Luka Doncic, injury-prone second player in Porzingis, and the rest of the guys are just a bunch of other guys. Never seen that happen before. When your superstar is playing to that level, you need to be up 3-1 in a series like that. But the reason why the Clippers find themselves down 0-2 in a series like that is because of what you saw in that event and what you saw against the Spurs. You saw a Spurs team undermanned, no superstar, go out there and give the Clippers the business, like the Clippers don't even have the fortitude, or they don't even have the talent enough to match up with a team like that. I mean, really, it looked like a complete mismatch. And now going into the next game that they have against tonight against the Kings, you got to find a way to get together. And that's what Ty Lue was saying. Hopefully the team will get it together and pick it up mentally and do what they got to do and play a lot harder and play with a lot more pride, because that was just an embarrassing loss. And, the Clippers have had a couple embarrassing losses this year, like losing to the Pelicans, I believe, twice. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that one. I had to take a breather on that one. I mean, losses like that just are inexcusable. And then you lose to the Thunder, I believe. Of course, the guy had the game-winning shot, but still, this shouldn't even be that close against the Thunder. You definitely have a better team. It's like the Clippers play down to their competition, and they lose the teams they're supposed to beat. And this is why I said, if you're ever going to be a good team in the NBA, you have got to beat the teams you're supposed to. You can't have losses on your record against teams like this when you're trying to make the playoffs, knowing you're missing Kawhi Leonard, knowing you're shorthanded, knowing you don't have all the pieces that you need. And, along with the COVID protocols and all this stuff that's going on, you got to try to win every game you can. And you've got to beat the competition that doesn't need to even be on the floor with you, which is the San Antonio Spurs. You got to beat competition like that. You can't allow competition like that to come into LA and beat you by 24 points, 20 plus points, and you're okay with that. So I'm definitely okay with what Ty Lue was saying in his post game about that game and about the team overall. And this is what I've been saying about them for a while. They definitely have the talent to do a lot of good things. And in the videos I've put out, I've said that, like I said, don't throw dirt on them and don't, wash them away just yet. But, if they're going to continue to play like this, if they're going to play down the competition and play at times when they want to and pick it up when they want to or pick it up when they feel like they need to, that's not going to help you win championships. That's not going to help you win. And, now the notion of things coming out now about, Serge Ibaka, I don't know if you guys have read it online, but, Serge and these tweets that came out that he's okay and asking to be traded from the Clippers. I don't know how true that stuff is. I really don't. But if he's thinking to be traded from the Clippers, I mean, from what he's seeing right now, I really wouldn't blame him. You're losing to teams that shouldn't even be on the same floor with you. And you have Paul George there. Paul George is good enough to beat a team like the Spurs by his damn self, just about. So I don't want to make too much out of one game because you never want to overreact too much. But losses like this really, really hurt the pride of the Clippers because it really, really puts a damper and a dent into what they're trying to accomplish. Because if you're trying to be a contender or looked at as a contender, you can't lose to teams like this. The Lakers are already playing bad enough. Now you're not helping LA anymore by losing to teams like this. So it makes the organization look bad, losing games like this when they're supposed to win, and they definitely got more talent and the better talent on the floor. But also, what does it make Kawhi Leonard think? Remember, Kawhi Leonard has to come back and, all these things and try to help this team. But damn, Kawhi Leonard shouldn't have to come back and help this team play the way they're supposed to. They're supposed to beat teams like that without him. If you won a Utah series last year in the playoffs against Utah without Kawhi Leonard, you should be able to beat a team like the Spurs without Kawhi Leonard. I mean, you have to start playing with consistency. And that's what it's all about. Consistency, efficiency, and getting high percentage shots and not falling asleep on defense. I've said it in many videos before. I cannot keep backing this team up if they don't allow themselves to play the way they're supposed to. Playing down to your competition is going to get you beat, and it's going to get you in a position you don't want to be in, possibly a play-in tournament team or barely making the playoffs. And that's not where the Clippers need to be. And I guarantee you that's not going to make Kawhi Leonard happy. That's not going to probably make him want to stay. That's not going to make him feel any better about the team's chances. And it's definitely not going to make him feel like he should rush back as quick as he can because he just doesn't see where the team is evolving. And like I said, with the Serge Ibaka thing, I personally think if they happen to trade Serge Ibaka, Kawhi Leonard is 1 foot in, 1 foot out after that, I believe. They better find a way to keep him, or if they do trade him, if these tweets and all this stuff is true, they better get somebody way more or as good as he is or better in return. That's the only way it might actually work. Because the way the team is playing down to their competition and having these breakdowns and games like this, it's only going to come back to bite the Clippers. I hope it doesn't, because I do want to see my boy Kawhi win another championship, but it's looking real slim with losses like this. And even Ty Lue is looking at it. And if Ty Lue is calling out his own players, as much as he trusts them and envision them and everything like that, and what he envisioned those players, he can definitely foresee their goodness and how they can play and how great they could be. He also will criticize them when they need to be criticized, which is exactly what I'm doing. The Clippers need to be criticized when they're not playing well. It's just that simple. You have got to be better. And if they don't go out there and show it, this might be a play-in tournament team. If they don't go out there and play to the execution and the level of consistency that they are expected to play at. It's just utterly embarrassing, and it's just no room for it. So I hope the Clippers find a way to redeem themselves. Like I said, I'm not going to overreact too much, but I mean, I've seen some questionable losses this year with Paul George on the floor, and he's clearly the best player on the floor. And a lot of the other Clippers on the floor are not showing up, or Paul George is shooting really bad from the field and he's not showing up, and you're losing the competition that shouldn't even be on the same floor with you. It's just utterly embarrassing, and it's just not going to work. And they're going to have to find a way to spruce some things up, patch some things up, and put some things together in place so they could be a much better team going forward. But hey, that's my take on the situation. You leave any comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think. As always, and hey, Khaliis out.